So I remember when we first started dating, right? After our first date, right, and then like after the first date already, we went back home. You went back home. I went back home. I dropped you off, and then we were talking on the phone. Remember that?
Yes.
For how many hours? The 5 stages of a relationship that every couple needs to know. You see, one of the things that I notice, especially with my students, right, that when they're in a relationship, right, when they have a spouse, they have a boyfriend, girlfriend, a husband, and wife, that when one party is growing and the other party is not, very often you have problems, right? They're not going through these stages together sometimes. I notice that one of the things I teach, I say this, you'll only be as successful as your spouse allows you to be. And it's very, very true. Because if you want to do one thing and your spouse wants another, you got conflict.
Yeah.
So out of the 5 stages that we want to talk about, but also from our own experience, right, what we've gone through as a couple, now we've been together 13 years. 13 years. So the first stage, just like most couples, how they fall in love, maybe it's love at first sight,
Yeah.
right? Or
The
maybe
lust,
it's the lust, right? You're
passion.
passionate. That's called the attraction stage, right? During that stage, that all you can think about is that person,
Yes.
right? So I remember when we first started dating, right? After our first date, right? And then like after the first date already, we went back home. You went back home. I went back home. I dropped you off, and then we were talking on the phone. Remember that?
Yes.
For how many hours?
I don't know, like 5 hours?
Yeah. So after dates, we still talk for 5 hours.
Yes.
And then next morning, we were having breakfast.
Did we? I don't remember.
Remember we had the little cafe that we went to?
I think
so right
so.
after we had breakfast
Okay.
again. 'Cause-
I remember we had 5 hours of talking.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah.
it's like you can't get enough of each other, right? You think of each other, or you can think of each other. You text each other gazillion times a day, right? You can talk for hours about nothing, really,
Yes.
right? You just met, you're excited, right? You've got the dopamine kicking in, right?
Yes.
So then it's just like lust, right? Total attraction. And for some, that might last a few weeks.
Yeah.
For some, it might last for a few months. Depends on how frequent you see each other.
Yeah, we see each other. Yeah.
Right? If you see, I think if you see each other a little bit more frequently, that lasts a little bit shorter.
Decreases.
Yeah, relatively quickly, right?
Yes,
But you know what I'm talking about. Comment below, right? When you first met that person, right? Your boyfriend, girlfriend. That's all that occupies your world.
Yes.
And you laugh at silly little things. Everything makes you giggle,
Yeah.
right? Every little,
Yeah.
that's cute, that's funny, right?
Yeah. Oh, every little things reminds you of the other person.
Yeah. Oh, they like, that's all you can think about.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the attraction stage. So for us, what was lit like when we are in the attraction stage for you?
For me, definitely want to spend more time with you together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was still just a student,
Yeah.
but he was working. So we're kind of relatively different kind of world. So
Yes.
I'm not sure about his schedule, but when
Yeah.
I finish class, I just want to spend time with him. But then he was working most of the time,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also it's the first time you kind of, because I'm 5 year older than Jenny, so dated someone a little bit more mature, I guess. Also very focused,
You mean for me? Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
First time, yeah. So then that's the first stage. The second stage is what we call the crisis stage. That's when
Right after. Love
right
and
after,
romance.
right? So romance is all good now you're like facing the reality of okay, now you're seeing the person as okay, do we get along? Are there
Yes.
any conflicts, right? Now it's like I don't like this about you, you don't like this about me. And a lot of couples, they don't get past this stage.
Or
Afterwards,
sometimes jealousy, you know.
jealousy,
When they talk to some other people,
Yeah.
you just get
yeah,
lights up.
the
and
crisis stage.
Yeah.
So when did we go through the crisis stage for us?
I think after 3-4 months, I don't know.
Because we were together almost every day, we see each other a lot within
Yeah.
the 2-3
Yeah.
months, right?
Yeah.
Very
Yes.
often. And then I think after 3 months is when we had like conflict.
Conflicts.
Yeah,
yes.
like fights and
Fights.
arguments and
Yeah.
things like that, right? Where she was yelling at me and I was like, why are you yelling at me? Like, what the hell is going on? Like, yelling. Like, literally yelling, right?
Did I?
Oh, you did. 1,000%.
Oh, really?
1,000%.
Okay.
I don't yell though.
You shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't yell. I'm like just calm. But that's when we had argument, right? So the crisis stage, and I think we had a few of these, I guess, relationship crises, right? There was at one point that we thought we were not going to be together,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's when we thought, you know what, maybe this is not going to work, right? We thought about it, right? We thought about it, and then I think that last, would you say about a year? Kind of like about a year, and then we transitioned to the third stage, which is the working stage.
Yes.
Now is, and there was, because we were living together already back then, and we kind of, you could say we broke up once, right? We're like, I'm like, this is not working, this is not what I wanted, and she's like, that's
That
not
was
what,
during the crisis
yeah,
stage.
yeah, like the peak of it was like, it's not working, let's just like, so I moved out basically.
Yes.
Right, and that was it. We said we're not going to see each other. We'll still be friends. We don't hate each other, but we're just like it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Where I wanted to go, but then through the working stage, we actually sat down, and I'm grateful that Jenny initiated, because in my mind it's like it's done, right? But in her mind, it's like, you know what? Maybe we could try one more time. Yeah, like maybe there are certain things. It's like we didn't set the expectations right. So we actually kind of have that very honest communication.
Isn't that funny? We had that conversation first time after we're together for almost a year. Like, isn't that funny, right?
Yeah. Now we talk of, okay, so
what do you like as a girlfriend, or what do I like as a boyfriend? We actually finally have that conversation.
It's almost like, what are your expectations?
Yeah.
Right? What is, because we separate because that's not what I wanted, and I told her what I wanted.
Yeah.
I told her about like my goals and dreams.
Yes.
Right. And
you need the other party to be supportive.
Supportive, for sure.
Act of service.
Yeah. I need.
That's his love language.
No drama.
Yeah, no drama.
No drama, because there's enough drama in the business world that I don't want drama when I'm home. So I think that's very key. We talk about different things, your aspirations, your goals. So through that stage, I think we work together as a couple, as a team. I think from there, then it's already way better. From there, we had very little problems then. And
I think that was a time when I realized we are actually working together as a team.
Yeah.
Whatever you define it as maybe as business partners or as couples or as.
Can you share also?
boyfriend?
I think there was a period of time where you felt we had a conversation, like this is very vulnerable here, that Jenny was supporting me very much, like truly, like behind the scenes, like whatever that I do in the business. But she was there a period of time where you kind of lost a little bit of that self-identity. You talked to me about it, right? Share a little bit about that.
I think that was after the crisis, so it's working stage.
Yeah.
I think that was probably after, even after the working stage, because during the working stage, I was not much focused on myself. I was more focusing on him.
Yeah.
So
what she does kind of evolved around my world very much.
So
right?
I want to make sure that I will do whatever you expect me to do. Let's see if it's gonna work for both of us, of course.
Yeah.
And then and after that, to a point that I think we're having a very stable relationship, and then we respect each other a lot. And then when I realized, I don't feel like I'm Jenny Lee anymore. I feel like I don't even know I'm Jenny Law, but I just don't know who I am.
It's
So there's that period of time like I'm kind of like lost, like is this what I really want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, she was questioning, should she pursue her own career, right? Like fashion merchandising in the fashion industry, or different things that she wants to do. And I said to her, like, absolutely. Like I'm nothing but supportive, whatever decisions. But she was like, let me think about it. And then at the end, what conclusion you came up with? Because I think that's very valuable for you as well.
I think before I get to there, maybe we should share the next stage.
Yes.
Because I think that's exactly what happens in the next stage.
Yes, that's the commitment stage. That's stage number 4, that's commitment.
I think the conclusion I made was, instead of me focusing on myself, because we're already a team, a partner together, so whatever one party's success is for the both parties, means his success is also my success. So I wouldn't define this as, yes, Dan Lok got all the fame, he got all the things he want, he like achieved all his dreams, but then knowing that instead of for him to achieve his dreams, he can also help me to achieve my dreams. So
Yes.
that was the time when I committed to this relationship, to this future. So we are working together, pulling from the same direction. I think that was really the turning point. And then we actually do get to approach a lot of the students or the couples or his fans during the event. They're always asking me like, Jenny, how come you're so patient? You always wait for them, because you know, like you can imagine every time after the event there's a zillion people approaching him. I'm always like just behind the scene, like waiting for him. And then people sometimes ask me the question, I'm like, I don't think it's a problem for me. I mean, he's doing what he's supposed to be, but knowing that he's doing for a bigger, better future for both of us, not just for him.
And also I think it's it's a teamwork, although I am under the spotlight, but it's actually the team that makes everything work, right? And Jenny's a very important part of the team. So it's not just, it's like a performer, a singer on stage, right? The singer sings, but you have the band, you have the light, you have the stage, like you have a
the
whole,
songwriter, the
like
lyric
you have a
writers.
whole team of people behind that person.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't see that. They think it's like one person does it all. There's no way one person could do it all, right? And Jenny's always the one that, because we've been together for so long, that she knows what happens, right? Example, like if I'm on stage, if I'm teaching, I'm speaking, and she would be watching and like she knows, he needs water or he needs whatever it is, right? That we have that unspoken communication. And I think from that stage, and there was a long time, like that commitment stage.
Yes,
Commitment
it's
stage.
not easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we both committed, right? And then from there to the final stage, I think where we're at now, which I think is the growth or co-creation stage, that we are co-creating our future together, that we are learning together, we're growing together, that we were just joking about, remember, like a few days ago, we're looking a picture of me like how many years ago,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Right? And then her picture how many years ago,
Yes.
and then how we've grown, right? I've grown a lot.
But that stage only happens when you pass through the commitment stage.
Yeah.
So you have to both committed to this.
Yeah. So you can see like the attraction stage is like that
Very
lust.
short.
It's a very short period of time, but what makes a relationship work, and you gotta put in the work. Like you gotta put in the work. There's no other way. It's just like if you want to be healthy, you gotta put in the work, right? You want to be wealthy, you gotta put in the work.
Yes, yes.
Relationship is the same thing. Like you can't just kind of let it run by default, right? Like,
Passive.
you can't be passive about it. No, you cannot be passive. So like now it's we talk the future, what we are going to do, and we still have, we don't have problem, but we overcome problems together. The more external world, what's happening out there, right? So those are the 5 stages that we believe that every couple goes through. Comment below, share with us what stage you're at and what stage that you want to get to. If you are single right now, this is food for thought. This is something you think about where, you know what? Is this person that I could see myself going through those
All the
5,
stages.
all those 5 stages with? I think that's very, very
And
key.
sometimes even for the married couples, they can't go through all the stages, even they're married.
They couldn't, and that's why the divorce rate is so
And
high.
sometimes people they just want to stay in the stage 1, which is all they want is lust and the romance, and they
Doesn't
don't want
last. And almost they're in their own bubble, right? They have this fantasy. They are like this. They think it's like the fantasy land. Like they want it to be the princess. They want to be the prince. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they just want to have like a perfect
You know,
relationship.
I still have girlfriends like that.
Yeah, like they want a perfect relationship, like
They
flawless.
want 100% attention
all the
and,
time, and like it's always romance. It's like it's not like that. It doesn't last, right? Comment below if you have any other questions that you want to ask Jenny or on the Alpha Man Smart Woman show. And remember, behind every successful man,
There's a smarter woman.
we'll see you next time.